Hi. Just so you know, I'm Shin'ei. I haven't been here very long, about 4 years I've been here, and I practiced up in Portland with Kyogen Carson for over 20 years, and I am an artist, so you might need to know that as well. So, my talk today is called Shadow, Paradox, and the Imagination. And I have two poems, one at the beginning and one to complete it. And then I can accept questions or comments. And Shadow, Paradox, and Imagination. I am hidden, a mystery of seeds and wounds. Seed in the sickle of the moon. Seed wisdom is about how to paint flowers in the sky. There's a seed hidden in the sickle of the moon, and the moon can be seen as seed or eye. The sickle moon as seed moon, as virgin moon, as first moon, as in itself moon. The green seed sprouts in the sickle of the moon, in the bright and white illumined sickle. We are wild within the midnight blue. A seed sprouts in the sky, look, and soon. Our garden growing out of the moon. Its light, rich color, surer than the rainbow. Flowers finding their place between the stars. Our flowers grow in empty space. Are they rootless? No. They are deeply rooted in the heart of the world. They grow because of this brightened heart, a brightened heart in the midst of the moon. And the moon glows within this brightened heart. Invisible roots straggle downward from the sky to touch and anoint the earth. That was written July 26th, the evening of the dark moon. I did not name her. My lifelong relationship with the dark angel Prajna Paramita, wedded through my poems and paintings, created mostly in solitude. I feel her presence as silent prayer and meditation. I hear her song in visual image and story. I feel her subtle power in my life as necessity, coming in various forms, populating my world with her impressions of vegetation, alchemical gardens, trees, flowers, water, fire, stones, and bones, serpents, wild dogs, and wolverines, as well as guardian spirits. I have found her in meditation as seed and womb bearer, an interior guide for my practice on the charnel grounds. As a small child, I went through a serious illness which changed the course of my life and eventually set me on an inner quest. At that time, I experienced the dark feminine as an image like deep memory, imprinted in my bones. Settledness, stability, and staying power. I like seeing resistance as a medium, not in itself a problem, but more dependent on my response. I like seeing within the experience of resistance a pivot point, a flexible center with a face turning upward or outward and/or a face turning back. Amid conflict, emotion, thought, and world flow in, with the outward turning face easily grasped, and resistance can be heightened, or the inward turning face relaxes, beginning the process of melting back. I have learned to take notice of my points of attachment, working to uncover its reason, thenceforth, allowing it to dissolve. Then I move forward and act. I know what to do because, quote unquote, I am not in the way, and this is surely a miracle. The flowering of the dark angel, a karmic blossoming, gathering the whole of a life threaded through the eye of the needle, the eye of awakening life. From a practical standpoint, I can't emphasize enough the importance of meditation from the beginning. And I remember very early in my practice moments of pristine clarity arising unasked for, like a gap within my thought stream. Gradually, through years of learning to stay, building muscle to wait, learning new ways to act and not react in a usual unproductive or problematic way. Meditation points us toward an interior center, always coming back. I am always coming back to this innate, still, ungraspable center. Zazen, sitting upright, is like a theater miniature of your own life, and in time, everything shows up here. I work to see through and uncover patterns, to understand how I am prone to certain conditions. I notice when I am caught by an urge to react in a habitual way, and most importantly in the Zazen period, and then out into my daily life. And I bring my practice, I have a really difficult psyche, I bring my practice everywhere. So I work to get beneath the narrative, to touch the clear open space below my thoughts. Attachment, noticing when we are caught by emotion and or thought, is specific and individual. To locate our personal dynamic is to observe and listen deeply, finding threads of continuity, age-old habit patterns, which give keys to who we are in terms of our tendencies. We strengthen our ability to wait, to hold both, or perhaps many sides of a dilemma, to stay put in our caught-upness, close and present to the difficulty, which means not to give in to the urge to react or repress. This satisfies a very human desire to be somewhere during meditation, to hold something tangible, giving a positive direction for meeting, learning about, and letting go of negative habits. There is no general admonition to be calm or to be good, for this would deprive us of our essential learning, which is our path. We learn to let be, to let life in, and not just the part that we like. We're realigning ourselves to the whole round of existence. We find a stability that is flexible and resilient. Descent and shadow as potent creative energy, fostering freedom and nourishment. Karma transforms, or rather, we learn to hold our karma differently, opening to our life, as our life is what we know. This everyday life, my special, nothing special, everyday life as it is, at bottom, this spacious, unpindownable mind. As there is no opposition between the phenomenal world and the Dharma, but opposition between our defiled views of the phenomenal world and the Dharma, accumulated throughout the centuries, now lodged in conventional opinion and habit patterns. To act in accordance with our vow is to uncover and abandon our unwholesome views. To distill a true relation to the Dharma is to discover within a slow, quiet turning about. To be well attuned is to see, to hear both myself and the other more clearly. I take the risk of interconnectedness to enter any situation with a willingness to lose, knowing fundamentally I cannot lose. I stand alone. And this I learned from my root teacher, Kyogen, soft belly up and open-handed, to trust even when facing not so trustworthy circumstances. I cultivate a receptivity which is active and vital. I practice being and doing with greater courage in letting life be. This process is creative, nourished less through constructive elements and more through loss and falling away. I discover a potential inherent in not having, a potential for a depth that nourishes. Our days measured by a willingness to be present, attentive, and listening to all that our life brings. This is not an attitude of resignation in relation to getting what we do not want, but broadening the palette so that how we experience wanting and or not wanting begins to change. It is about acceptance, fostering receptivity, vital yet vulnerable to new possibilities. Our tightly held expectations are a false and temporary protection. They tend to narrow the field and keep us prisoner in the very circumstance we are trying to transform. Settledness is a growing faith in things as they are, an innate simplicity resting peaceably within the as you are. Years ago, before I came to a formal practice, I had strong mystical experiences, illumined and light, and was almost lost to them. These experiences contributed to some feelings of refusal to enter and trust the practical life, which is not entirely wrong for me, but not complete. Finding the ground of faith. Despite and perhaps because of the myriad fortunes that often beset us, we know that we are blessed, held in the arms of the Mother of all Buddhas, changed through her dark yet transforming light. This true life beneath the surface is not entirely my life, yet all that happens to me is in some way mine. What happens is mine to happen, not predetermined, but in the trajectory mine, as my place in time, mine as one of the many manifest possibilities of my varied timbre and response. Whatever facet of my life shines forth, in its most profound aspect, it remains undisturbed, even encouraged by obstructions and disappointments, and yields to its consequence. If we are attentive and inquiring, we discover both negative and positive influences bring nourishment, often in unexpected ways. Our attention, conscious or unconscious, ever turning towards our karma instead of running away, opening us into the darker terrain, the acts of immovability, the nurturing of interior stillness, regardless of the particulars of circumstance, is prerequisite for effectively stepping forward in the world. The vow is primary. The ground of faith is the path of the ancestors who encourage us not to shy away from this deep, nourishing source. Within the last 2 to 3 years, I feel a qualitative change, a crushing, a simplification and deepening sense of belonging as my world, mind, and heart directly touch a living, ungraspable center. It is my intuition that when the whole of your life, the day-by-day nitty-gritty one you have struggled with, suffered, enjoyed, and gotten to know, touches this center, the gate inevitably opens. Aha. Telling our story, original vow. I point to the source where the waters flow, begin, stop, dry, and flow again. The ancient garden, the ancient spring, our original seed, our original vow. I speak here of a faith not in a literal or external possibility, although external possibilities can be saving, but in the very possibility of being saved. through an active remembrance of what things are. Who am I in the world? Whose am I in the world? I address seeing in the artist's sense, and goodness in a religious and moral sense. For to see is to be ethically disciplined and focused, not merely to love, but to examine a what and why of my love, and the way in which I love. To see is to see through, to know and to be at home in the depth unknowing. Really, it is about how we as a culture have become lost in surfaces, losing touch with the interior gaze of deep and subtle voices. Although grounding in the essential nature is our birthright, human beings are capable of cultivating ideas not conducive to a deep listening faith. I write this talk to invite us into the practice, to inspire a telling of our story, to foster a deepened and renewed faith in our story. There are many ways to tell our story, through our work, our families, children, and communities, most importantly, to appreciate our life as a work. When I first engaged in Zen practice, my teacher encouraged me to speak openly about events as they happened to me, to understand how these experiences belong to me, this journey a gift, making me who I am. And I really remember him very distinctly telling me that our gifts are not always what we would like them to be. And that really stayed in my mind. So when I was a child, the darkness came early. The light of the sun dimmed, death was all around. Battered and broken, inside and outside, I was the body of death. I grew up in a home physically and psychologically destructive, a violent space. I spent most of my late childhood and adolescence institutionalized. I ran away at 17, entering the world with little social verification. I had very good qualities, many good qualities, calling to arrive in the world. Nonetheless, most of these qualities have been pushed aside. I myself participated, not able to find the way to step into my own shoes. The words of a therapist years ago, "Your shoes are there," he told me. I found a life outside conventional forms because that was the path that opened for me, perhaps revealing a truer aspect of my nature. For as we become ourselves, we open to what is more than ourselves. Our story gives relevance. The poet William Stafford speaks in an autobiographical reference to his life as like two rivers that blend. Stafford goes on to say, one part is easier to tell, the times, places, events, and people. The other part is mysterious. It is my thoughts, the flow of my inner life, the reveries and impulses that never get known, not even to me. The second part wanders along at its own pace, caught up in a story that touches the outward story, but is not the same. Often this inner story hardly belongs to this place I am living. Later in his essay, he points to a very specific event that put him at odds with popular culture. And again, I'm quoting, "My 4 years under civilian direction, he was a conscientious objector in World War II, turned my life sharply into that independent channel of the second river, a course hereafter distinguished from any unexamined life, from the way it might have been in any of my hometowns." Each life is a microcosm. Each story reflects a whole cosmos. Sitting with all beings is a precise metaphor, true to a profound inquiring self. I envision an exchange between the destructive energy of our repressed, unquestioning emotion thought, for the sharing of our stories through the imaginal realm, the image of first instance of the manifest world. I'm interested in a conversation between our differences, suggesting other ways to be with our world, to free the misunderstandings we have created together and cultivate the ability to begin again. There is no regret. Our quote unquote failures turn us around and light the path. At any time we can enter the labyrinth. Images hold multiplicities. They are the non-literal, the not as concrete or single-minded. They are the part of me that is always at home. There is no culmination, no end to the practice, but there is a maturing process. Oddly, we are whole at the beginning, and we are always at this beginning. Throughout all our fascinating adventures, frankly, we go nowhere, yet the years make a significant difference. Tell me your story. In our story is the original seed, our promise. Like the light of the new moon, like a centuries-old woman hidden, her life like the labyrinth, an echo perhaps, a memory from before the earth is born. And I'm going to read the whole poem. The tree in the mountain, a rite of passage. The ancient origin myth, a rite of passage. Our story as original seed. Tell me your story. In our story is the original seed, our promise, like the light of a new moon, like a centuries-old woman hidden, her life like the labyrinth, an echo perhaps, a memory, from before the earth is born. The tree in the mountain, she is veiled, warm and protected, quiet and unhurried. She patiently waits, teaching me to wait. Her golden branches blaze within the mountain. Our actions leave traces which resonate in the distance. Root and branch, pebble and stone, my flesh and bone, an integral part of the mountain. Deer scamper, their magic antlers and jewel-like eyes, a god disguised. Geese fly, their feathery bodies glide atop the stream, appear and then disappear, travel in and through the dream. Many petals unfold the ancient truth. Death, her fertile field, unnamed, I name her now. The mystical tree where the heart blooms. Animals come, they rest upon her branches, nestle within her leaves, sing a magical song, and then ring tiny bells, welcoming each new day. A great tree is alive within the mountain. New seeds, once dormant, turn toward the sun. And that was written August 3rd, early dawn. So that's my talk for today. That's what Kyogen always said. That's my talk for today. But anyway, so anyhow, I don't want to look at the time, but if you have any questions, and if I could take questions from people who don't usually ask questions, because that's the category I'm usually in. So if you really have always been wanting to ask a question.
Shin'ei, first of all, wow. The more I get to know you, and I consider you a friend. I hope you feel the same. And the more I get to experience you, really get to see really true art in you, and I just want to thank you for that. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
So my question is, artist to artist, but if not, there may not be artists in here. Maybe there is, or everyone's artist, but maybe don't. So if we weren't thinking in artist way, what did all that mean? In a simple line, or a simple, maybe not artist way, is there a way that maybe you can explain that?
I think actually, you know, it's a very odd thing because if you go into traditional cultures, you can see illiterate and you know, just basically folk type individuals who make masterpieces, and actually masterpieces that far surpass our culture today. I'm really interested in this Samboga Kaya realm, and I think part of the reason that we don't touch the artist in us is because we don't give room, and we don't, you know, we don't recognize or hear these voices that are whispering within, that are creative voices and would open us up to our creative life. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say. I really believe this, and a lot of it is the negative energies that we hold down that hold a great deal of our creative resources. So we really narrow the field. So there's no guarantee that everyone, you know, will paint, or, you know, I don't really know, but I really do think so, that every person has this creative energy and creative voice, and it's really, writing a poem is, you know, just one foot in front of the other, you know, more than we realize, and our lives are what we have, so, you know.
Thank you.
I don't know that you're someone who doesn't ask questions either. Anyway.
Not too often.
No, but you're a friend, and I thank you for that,
Oh,
anyway.
me too, thank
You know. Anyone else? Questions?
Hello, this is Shin'ei, and I am also someone that sometimes asks questions. So I'm also not following directions. However,
That's really a creative energy, is not following directions. That's,
I'm just barging in anyway, because I have a chill on the back of my neck, which always means to me that the truth has been spoken. And I just have to tell you how absolutely wonderful your talk has been to me. I'm sure to others, but I am speaking here for me. And I know you in some other connections. And so I'm going to listen to this again. I'm probably going to send it to my daughter and granddaughter. And so I am just saying, thank you so much.
oh, I'm going to say thank you too. So.
Okay, all right, great.
Okay. Anyone else?
That was wonderful, and I wanted to ask you, where do we find your poetry? How do we get access
If you could.
to these wonderful minds?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was saying, thank you very much for your
Could you
poetry.
tell him to come?
Just ask.
Thank you, Shin'ei. I wanted to ask you how we can get access to your work and to your poetry.
Oh, well, mostly I just have a website, and I have Facebook, and you can, I have in my house, it's all crowded in a 400 square foot, you know, so,
Wonderful. Well, I'll ask you your website and
yeah.
learn your address so that I can stop by.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I spend a lot of time alone, so, you know, anyway.
I'll start with the website. Thank you.
You can ask questions, don't be afraid, because I've made more mistakes than anyone would ever know, so it's fine to ask questions. You know.
When you were speaking about having trust in circumstances that aren't trustworthy, where do you find that trust?
I find it, actually, I really do know that we are blessed And we are not out in a cold, cruel world, you know, at all. And this I know. And I find that trust in my practice and being okay with everything that comes my way. And it doesn't mean you won't die, you won't get sick, that you'll get everything you want, you won't. But I really have learned that, and it is that trust that has, you know, I committed myself to, you know, a whole lot of things, you know, that you'd have to really be, you know, insane, you know, to commit yourself. But it was really what was on fire inside, and I never really knew it would ever work or would ever come to anything. Buddhist practice has never disappointed me, and I think that if we don't have this trust and faith in our own lives and in this very person that we are, I'm talking about a deep trust, I mean, then I don't know how any of the very large issues that are facing us today are going to be resolved, and there have to be enough of us to really be able to carry this forward. So, and I have to say too about the arts, and I don't know if you want to know this, but I'm remembering when I did this piece about Kazan, and because he followed his dreams, and his mother was following dreams as well, and that's not usual what I found in Buddhism, but I really feel that during the Buddhist time that what we are calling the soul and the Jungian kind of soul was carried by the community and the deities and things that this is what I mean, we just dismiss this. And there are all kinds of lovely things, you know, possible in these influences or these whisperings. And I think at the Buddhist time, you know, these things, you know, he didn't need to do that work, but we really need to do that work. We need to take who we are and the practice, you know, and expectation and accountability into the world we live in. And you know, I have this vision, and forgive me, but I have a vision of this, you know, oozing up of creative energy and color and shape and music and dancing and ritual that have always been, until industrial culture, you know, ways in which people held their difficult emotion, and that's what art does. So, and difficult events and situations. So I really, you know, I don't know how to say it directly. Somewhere I read that in India they have 96 words for love, and we have one. So, you know, to hold the practical in one hand and this caring, compassionate, feeling sense in the other, and we use our practical and technological skills to support, you know, a maturity in American culture, you know, a spiritual maturity. And anyway, just because people are quiet doesn't mean they're not thinking about these things, and they're not looking, and, you know, so anyway, so. Anyone else? If it's time, you can just say it's time. Does anyone else have a question?
Shin'ei?
Yeah.
Thank you. It was beautiful, and especially thank you for the line about being unable to step into your own shoes. I feel like that kind of resonates with my entire adult life. But I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about resistance as a medium.
You know, it isn't in itself, you know, I like the pivot, and I like the pivot because it means that it's, you know, if I have resistance, I don't have to run, and I don't have to feel that that's some kind of permanent, solid obstruction, you know, that at any point, the resistance. I work a lot with if I have a feeling of resistance and continually working to get underneath the thinking, so it's always flexible. And the resistance, a lot of times I'll give it, I'll give it a little bit of a line so that I can see, like fishing and you throw out the line. So I want to see, this resistance. Our resistance really is this self that holds on to things, but it's not a bad thing, because if you watch carefully, you begin to recognize your patterns, you begin to notice them, and you begin to know how to, use the practice to move back and allow the resistance to melt, or the insistence that we have just to melt back. And it's another thing, it really is a miracle. And I have had such a difficult personality that I every day I'm like, in the sense that I never would have believed that I would be okay. So, that's the best I can say. It really is a miracle. And we know what to do. And, the discursive mind, which is my habit to try and think out a solution. The discursive mind, Kyogen, my teacher, used to say, is a good servant and a poor master. And prajnaparamita and the Buddha are your Buddha nature, and the deep sense of your life is the best master, so. And not master, she's a really nice master. She's really, there's lots of room, so, so, anyway.